Think about people like Joseph, who was in prison for years. He had this promise to be some kind of person in charge, leading, and I don't think that he was always happy. So I don't think necessarily you're always going to be happy when you're living in God's will. Now, I do think that you'll be fulfilled. Hey everyone, what's up? Today's Tuesday, January 17th, I think it's January 17th. Anyway, I made the absolute worst vlog of my life yesterday. It was pretty bad. I was rambling, and then I just got self-conscious and I didn't know how to end it. So when I finally did end it, I went ahead and took it down. I deleted it because I was like, that was horrible. So I want to do it again. I want to fill everybody in on everything that's going on in my world, and yeah, so I'm going to just jump into it. So before I do, a friend asked me the other day, or actually somebody asked me online, and I got into a conversation with a friend about it, and the person was like, shouldn't you be happy if you're living in God's will? That was basically the question. And I said, not necessarily, because I was thinking about my own life and the journey that got me to this point over the last 19 years. And there were a lot of times that I was not happy, I think about people in the Bible, specifically like David. He was hiding in caves for years when he was promised to be the king. I think about people like Joseph, who was in prison for years. He had this promise to be some kind of person in charge, leading, and I don't think that he was always happy. So I don't think necessarily you're always going to be happy when you're living in God's will. Now, I do think that you'll be fulfilled, you know what I mean? Because you'll be knowing that you're where you're supposed to be. There should be a sense of peace about it, but you won't always be happy. You know what I mean? Like there were times that I was a lot happier when I was out, partying. I was happy in the moment. Of course, there were times where I felt really empty too. I wasn't fulfilled at all because I knew I wasn't living the way that I should be living, and I wasn't living at my full potential. So no, I don't think that you always should be happy. A lot of times when you're waiting on the promises of God, you're not happy. Like he'll put you through a season of testing where you're, maybe things aren't even working. Maybe, you're detoxing from, relationships, or a toxic relationship I talk about, and that's not always fun. The word says that no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it yields a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who are trained by it. So a lot of times God will discipline you. I think he says he disciplines those he accepts as a son and punishes everyone he loves as a child, or something along those lines. So yeah, that's not always fun. Usually it's quite the opposite. So it's challenging at times. But anyway, that was my answer. I talk a lot about that period that I went through, and how, it was probably the most difficult thing that I'd ever gone through, which was the wait, which was waiting on God for him to show up and to, use me in some great way, because that was basically, why I followed, because he's like, I got a plan for you, follow me. This is back in 2000, so this is a long time ago. I'm showing my age. But, it was hard for me to stay in the places that he told me to stay. Originally, it was like, I worked at Gold's Gym for 5 years. So originally it was like, okay, I didn't want to, that wasn't my dream job. I just stayed there because that's where I knew I was supposed to be. And at times it was not fun. Mostly it wasn't fun. Like I would, sometimes I would have to drag myself in there because I missed my old life. I missed my old friends, but I knew that that's where he put me. So I stayed there. And, more recently, like staying, working in the office 15 hours a day, like that wasn't always fun, but I knew that City Fam was the calling, the vision that God gave me. Even when it wasn't working, like I had to stay there and I had to keep hitting it, keep grinding, and waiting for him to show up. But I really, what other choice did I really have? I talk about, so when God gives you like a big vision and a limited skill set, I feel like I have it, it's frustrating at times. It's actually really painful because you have this great dream of what could be and what should be, but then you don't have the resources and you don't have like the intelligence or whatever to pull it off, and it leads to frustration. So really, your only choice at that point is to wait for God. Now that doesn't mean you don't work, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that, because some people would say, well, if you're waiting on God, well, you know, that kind of takes the responsibility off you. No, I'm not saying that. When I mean waiting on God, I mean you are absolutely working your ass off, giving it everything that you have to make it happen. But at the same time, when it's not happening, you stay there. You stay there and continue to work if that's where you're supposed to be. And you know it because you get this deep sense of peace. So you could be in some environment like getting your ass handed to you. You know, like maybe you're a salesperson at a job. Like that was my first job, was at Gold's. I was selling memberships. I'm not a sales guy, but I knew that that's where God had me, so I stayed there. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of waiting on God means, is even if you're miserable, you just continue to stay there and do your best, because that's where he has you. And sooner or later, that's where the magic's gonna happen, because he will show up at some point and he will make it happen for you. You know, but usually there's a period that you go through where you're waiting for him to manifest the promise, you know? So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just what I've experienced. And that's what allowed me to stay in a position where, you know, I didn't have money, I didn't have a girlfriend, City Fam attendance was, you know, low, and like nothing was working, couldn't get our systems together. But I kept believing that if I stay in this place and I continue to give my all, sooner or later, he's gonna show up, he's gonna send the right people, he's gonna send the right resources, and he's going to do it. You know, and that's everything that I read in the Word supports that. So, yeah, anyway, but what the beauty of that though, the beauty of having that big vision and having a limited skill set is it forces you to rely on God. You know, that is really the blessing in it, because if I could have made it happen on my own, let's say I was like somebody like a Kevin Plank, you know, dude built a multi-billion-dollar brand, you know, empire, Under Armour. But he's talented. He has, you know, he probably had some investors, and his intelligence is probably through the roof. Like, when you have that, you don't really need to rely on God. You know, like you kind of make it happen. Now, I don't know Kevin Plank's story. Maybe he did rely on God. I'm just making assumptions here. But for me, I don't have an intelligence like that. I don't have money. I don't have a family with money. I didn't have people around me. Like, I just had to pray a lot, and I had to make sure that I wasn't doing anything offensive to him. I fasted. I worked really hard, and I 15 hours a day, because I was like, I'll do everything. I'm going to pray like it depends on God, but I'm going to work like it depends on me. And that was kind of like my whole strategy. And I believed that if I did that, sooner or later, that he would show up. And I'm happy to say that he did, and things are starting to happen now in my life that they're just beyond explanation. Like they're just, you know, I've gotten so much clarity even in the last few months about, you know, what we're doing, what City Fam is, and how to go about it. And I'm going to talk about some of the cool things that are happening actually now. But I want to say one last thing with that. Half the battle while you're on this journey of, if you're waiting for God, is keeping yourself from getting bored and lonely while you wait for the promises to manifest. That for me was the biggest challenge, was because there's just so many moments where you're like, you get bored, you get depressed, you get lonely, you get horny, you get angry, frustrated, you know, like you want to do something, you know, like to blow off some steam or just numb yourself because you're in that much pain, you know? And if you don't have, which is why I'm so passionate about community, because if you don't have a group around you to inspire you when those feelings, those hard times hit, you will eventually wall out. You'll go left, you'll do something bad. So you have to have a group around you to lift you up and to support you and, you know, encourage you, and a group that you would let down if you messed up. Like, I don't know how many times, just knowing that I would let people down if I was to do something, that kept me out of trouble. And it allowed me to just make it one more day, you know? So a big, you know, that for me is, again, why City Fam, I'm so passionate about it, because it keeps people from getting bored and lonely. Not to say I never get bored and lonely, because I still do get bored and lonely sometimes. It's funny because here I am. I believe that CityFam is the solution to the loneliness epidemic. I believe it's a solution to the opioid epidemic too. But here we are trying to fix the loneliness problem, and I'm lonely at times, because I'm working so much, and it's challenging, even for me. I don't think community doesn't fix everything. There's still going to be times where you get lonely, but it's way better than it was before I had CityFam. Now I have a like-minded friend group that there's things to do and people to do them with most of the time. And I believe that God lets me experience loneliness myself still, because it keeps me passionate about fixing the problem. It reminds me of why I'm doing this. Like I talked about it yesterday, where I went to church on Sunday and I got done church and there was just nothing to do and no one to do it with. And I'm like, I get a little depressed. I'm like, and so until we figure this CityFam out and we get the app launched and we get, the members creating their own social and service events. So this way, if you want to do something with other people, it will always be options. If you want to be alone, it'll be because you choose to, not because there isn't anything to do or anyone to do with. Good people. That's what I want to do with CityFam. That's what we are doing with CityFam. All of us that are working so hard at it. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening. So there's several different things going on. I brought some notes here because I don't want to miss anything. So we had a service event at the Horseshoe Casino the other day, Saturday. We did blessing bags, and it was our biggest blessing bags event that we've ever done. We had over 100 volunteers at the Horseshoe. Shout out to them. They really rolled out the red carpet for us. We had coffee and little danishes and muffins and everything else for our volunteers. But we had over 100 people show up, and we assembled 410 blessing bags filled with socks, toiletries, shaving cream, razors, hand warmers, water, little snack bar. We all want these bags, and then we gave them back to the volunteers, and now they are giving them out to the homeless population all over Baltimore. So it was a great event. Really, one of our best. Shout out to Morgan Kimmel for putting it together, and Tamara Morris for helping and thinking it up. So it was great. We're definitely going to continue that every year. And actually, if you're watching right now, let's show some clips on YouTube. We're setting all this up. Really quickly, I just want to give you kind of a quick description of what CityFam is, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Tamara Morris, whose brainchild blessing bags is, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But for anyone that doesn't know what CityFam is, you may have found us online or whatever, and maybe this is your first event. So we are a social community for the most part. I used to be a club promoter in the city. I used to promote a lot of the bars in the city, and when I got out of that lifestyle and started making better decisions for my long-term goals, I found that I was sitting at home every weekend with nothing to do and no one to do it with. And I stayed in for a lot of weekends before I realized, well, this is a problem. If this is what people have to go through when they're trying to make positive changes, no wonder people, go back. So me and a couple friends started organizing social events that we called Fun Without Regrets. So I still want to go out and have a good time. I just don't want to do anything I regret on Monday. And basically all of our events benefited a local charity. So then we would actually use our social events to recruit people to go serve, to volunteer, because a lot of people want to volunteer, they don't know how to get started. And what we found happened in the context of that, the social and the service events, was you saw really miraculous things happen in people's lives where, they got out of toxic relationships, they got sober, they just became the best version of themselves, and ended up becoming CityFam. So that's who we are. We do a lot of social events, we do a lot of service events together in the city.
Right now we just separated. I did. I saw some over there. Should I grab those? It's so hard to get into. Wow. It's fun.
We got here.
Panties.
Oh, we got something.
Wow,
Cool.
looks very official. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Nice.
A mayoral salute. On behalf of the citizens of Baltimore, I am pleased to salute City Fam in recognition of your 3rd annual Blessing Bags event. Today, volunteers will sell hundreds of individual bags filled with a variety of personal care items to be distributed to the needy throughout Baltimore leading up to Christmas. I've read that sentence so many times. On behalf of the citizens of Baltimore, I recommend you for extending this courtesy to the underserved in Baltimore and practicing the true meaning of Christmas. Happy holidays.
That's awesome. Thank you. Way to go, ladies. Good job. Good job. Way to go. So it was really amazing. Yesterday I had a meeting with a lawyer at a big law firm downtown, off at Kerman and something. And there's just a lot of good stuff that's happening now, to the point where I'm like, I need to get some legal advice because I don't know how to navigate my way through all this. So some of the things I told him about, I have the book translated into Romanian. It's on bookstore shelves over there. I need to get some kind of deal with the host that brought me over to Romania, so we can do some kind of revenue share. And then the idea is now for her to form a team in Romania that can go around and do talks like her and I did in place of me. So this way there's people going around doing the truth about sex talks in schools and churches. And at each of those talks, of course they'll be selling the book and they'll be selling the study guide, but the real purpose of the talk is to start groups, because what the book does a really good job of is to convince people that this is the right way to get what you want most in life. It ain't easy, but it is the right way. And I do a real damn good job of explaining it to people practically. So what I want to do is, as these people start to figure out, shit, this is the right way, then I want them to be in a group, because they're going to need the support of each other to make it, because it's so difficult to do alone. I did it for 6 years alone for the most part, and then I backslid because I just could not be alone anymore. So social isolation is not a long-term strategy, which I talk about. But I want them to start groups. And from those groups, the groups have the potential to grow into a city fam in each of these towns and cities where they start one. But also what these groups are going to do, in each of these groups, we're going to identify people in the group that are passionate about this message, and we're going to teach them how to go out and now share in schools and churches. So we're going to be groups. We're going to be groups starting groups, and this thing is going to expand exponentially, and to the point where City Fam is going to be everywhere, and there's going to be an army of people out talking about waiting. Now, the next logical question I think that people would go is, okay, so City Fam is that the abstinent group? No, it's not. However, the people at the center of the group, of a City Fam group, better be committed to not having casual sex. Because at the end of the day, you can't have a fox in the hen house. You can't, or everything will go out the window. You can't have somebody in charge that's sleeping with all the people in the group. It just won't work. Actually, I know this from experience, because in 2006, I had a group that was very similar to City Fam that used to meet at we had a small group at Casbah, a club downtown, and I slept with 2 of the girls that came to the group, and everything just went out the window. So I know from experience that it doesn't work. So you can't have a fox in the hen house. Doesn't mean that people in the group won't be having sex. There'll be people that are drunks and probably on drugs and all kinds of other things. That really kind of is the beauty in City Fam, is you have people in there that are at various stages of their mess, and they're figuring it out in the context of healthy community. But the people at the center better have their shit together. So that's why I say through these talks, we will start groups that start groups that start groups. And that's really what excites me the most about City Fam, or about the tour, really. So the tour is going to start in the UK. We're going to start in London right around the middle of February. We already have dates lined up in England, Scotland, and Ireland. And I'm going to be spending about 12 weeks in those 3 countries. And we're going to try to do as many as 6 nights a week. We're going to try to speak. I want to talk at universities during the day. I want to talk mostly at churches at night. And we're going to get this message out there. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to start groups that have the potential to become City Fam chapters that also we will identify leaders to train on how to go out and start more groups. So everything I do, I'm just putting out there because, you know, even when I wrote the book, when I was thinking about the book, which is probably 2 or 3 years ago, I just talked about it. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. I believe that it's gonna open doors for me, which will lead to benefit City Fam. And I just kind of, I spoke it and then it happened. And I'm a big believer in the power of the spoken word. So I'm saying this now because I believe that that's what's gonna happen. And I believe that we're gonna create we're going to create a worldwide movement. We already have a worldwide movement. We're going to just now pour a lot of gasoline on it, and we're going to see this thing grow exponentially. So right now we have groups that are meeting. In Houston, there's a City Fam. In Dallas, there's a group that's meeting. In Columbus, they just met. They just had their first social event. In Montreal, they're meeting. In London, they're meeting. In LA, they just met up for the first time. So we have a lot of groups out there because people are resonating with this. There are a lot of people out there that are going through this that are like, man, I'm staying at home every weekend. I'm bored and I'm lonely. I'm making good decisions, but you know, there's nothing to do. You know, and that is a recipe for failure. You know, like you're gonna fail in some way. So we want to find those people. We want to bring them together. We want to teach them what we started here in Baltimore, and in the process, they're gonna help a lot of people. So anyway, I've said it so much. But I'll keep talking about it. So New Year's Eve is coming up. Charm City Countdown. You can go to the website if you want to know more about that. Probably going to sell about 1,200 tickets for that. I'm excited. My favorite party of the year. I have my old friends that I party with there. I have my church friends there. My parents come. Like literally, it's just like everybody that I care about. Not everybody, but a lot of people that I care about. A lot of different people groups are covered during that event. So I'm excited about it. Like I'm going to wear a tux. I'm looking for a masquerade. The theme is the Enchanted Forest. We actually just bought the URL H-Town Countdown because next year we're going to do one in Houston, which I'm really excited about. And I'll probably go down for that one and I'll let my business partner handle Baltimore on their own. And Houston's a big city, if you don't know. It's like one of the biggest cities in the country. So I'm excited to go down. I'd be excited to go down and spend New Year's Eve with that group. I think it would be a lot of fun. So that's just long-term plan. So just announced yesterday, I think we made the decision. We are going to bring back the Stop Dreaming, Start Creating retreat for 2020. So the dates are going to be January 24th and 25th. If you don't know what that is, last year at the beginning of the year we did a retreat. We actually went to Pennsylvania. We went to this campground or whatever, and we had speakers. We had Stéphane Labossiere and Lori Lockamy led it, and we just basically helped our participants, the attendees, really get clear about what they wanted their year to look like. What was it that they wanted most? What do they want to accomplish that year? And then give them the plan, the blueprint, the GPS, if you will, to accomplish it. So this year we're going to do it, but we're going to do it virtually. And the reason that we're going to do it virtually is, number one, it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's only going to be $149. And then the second reason that we're going to do it virtually is because now we have people that are watching us from all over the world. So they'll be able to just come join us by a link, a Zoom link or whatever. They're going to get a little explanation of the worksheet. They'll get the worksheet, and then they'll come back in an hour after being able to do the work, and ask any questions that they have or whatever. It's going to be led by Billy and Ariana Lofton, which is amazing because I'm just really excited that my old wingman Billy is getting more heavily involved with his wife, Ariana, who actually used to be our executive director. So they're going to be leading it. It's going to be awesome. We don't even have the link up yet for you to register, but you can mark your calendar for January 24th and 25th. It's great. And I asked them to do this more for me, to be honest, than anything, because I believe in it so much. I talk about coaching and life coaching and how much it's changed my life. But, like walking this narrow path, making the decisions that I encourage people to make isn't easy. It's, super difficult, and if you don't know why you're doing it, you just won't do it. So what we want to help people do is get really clear about what is their why. What do you want most? Once you know what you want most, it's a game changer. Until you know what you want most, it's so easy just to make decisions in the moment based on your feelings, because you're like, you don't have a vision for where you're going. So why would you discipline yourself? But when you know what you want and you're like, man, that is what will make me happy, because that's what I felt. The first time I met with Lori Lockamy, she wrote me a vision statement. She read it to me the next time we met, and I was like, I will do anything to get there. You know, because it just was, I was like, that is when I'll be fulfilled. That is when I'll be happy. And it changed my life. And that's what we want to do for people, is we want to help you figure out what you want most, and then we want to give you the plan, the exact blueprint to follow all year long to make those things happen. This is how I wrote my book. This is how I did the study guide. This is how I started City Fam. You know, everything that I'm doing came from the things that I was taught by coaches. And we want to do it for you guys, and we're going to make it super affordable. So January 24th, 25th, Stop Dreaming, Start Creating, $149. We're actually going to do a discount for early birds. I think we're going to do like $25 off. We're also going to do a discount for contributing members for $25 off. So literally you could register for like $99. And it's going to be a weekend long. So by the Saturday night, you're going to have a really solid plan for what you're going to get done in 2020 and how that's going to go for you. So I'm very excited. I would definitely not miss it. Yeah. So I think that's it. What else? Anything else? Roy's birthday party, if you're in Baltimore. Roy's birthday party is this Saturday. Roy Chappelle, we're going to be at Looney's in Bel Air, hanging out. Ugly Christmas sweater party, 8 o'clock starts. You can meet us up there. That's it. Appreciate you guys. See ya. Hi, my name is Rob Kowalski. Maybe you've seen some of my videos on here, like 10 Reasons Not to Have Sex Before Marriage. I'm currently lining up dates next year to do talks all over the world. It's going to be called the Truth About Sex Tour, and I need your help. If you'd like me to come to your city, send an email right now to bookings@robbkowalski.com and let me know where you live. Someone will reach out to you with some next steps. It won't cost you anything. We made it super easy, so reach out right now. Thank you.